There are places on this earth where time itself seems to stand still, where the air hums with secrets, and the very ground beneath your feet whispers of ancient power. For centuries, explorers, scholars, and adventurers have been drawn to these forbidden zones, sites so enigmatic that they've been sealed away, hidden, or outright banned from human entry. Some were deemed too sacred for mortal eyes, others too dangerous, and a few, well, their mysteries remain so unsettling that even today, governments and guardians refuse to reveal what lies within. Picture crumbling temples swallowed by jungle vines, caverns echoing with untold histories, and ruins where the walls seem to watch you back. These are not just relics of the past, they're puzzles waiting to be solved, doors begging to be unlocked if you dare. Now imagine standing at the threshold of one of these places. The air is thick with the weight of centuries, and every shadow hints at stories lost to time. What would you do if you found yourself face to face with a site so forbidden that even speaking its name was once punishable by death? From the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Egypt's pyramids to the cursed tombs of forgotten emperors, humanity's past is littered with zones that defy explanation. Some were hidden to protect us, others to protect the world from what sleeps inside. And today, we're pulling back the veil on 25 of the most chilling, mysterious, and outright forbidden ancient sites ever discovered. This isn't just a journey through ruins and relics, it's an expedition into the unknown. Along the way, you'll encounter places where modern science falters, where legends bleed into reality, and where the line between history and myth vanishes entirely. Why was an entire city in India abandoned overnight, its streets left frozen in time? What lurks in the depths of that Turkish cave system, so terrifying that even seasoned archaeologists refuse to enter? And what truths lie buried beneath the sands of a desert no one is allowed to cross? The answers are waiting, but be warned. Once you step into these forbidden zones, there's no turning back. So, ready your curiosity and steady your nerves, because we're about to go where few have ventured, and even fewer have returned unchanged. Beneath the crimson walls and golden rooftops of Beijing's forbidden city lies a world few have ever seen, a labyrinth of sealed chambers, hidden passageways, and vaults rumored to hold treasures so dangerous they were buried by emperors themselves. For over 600 years, this sprawling palace complex has stood as a symbol of imperial power, but its deepest secrets remain locked away, guarded by both modern laws and age-old superstitions. Archaeologists have long suspected that entire sections of the underground network remain unexplored, their entrances concealed beneath ornate pavilions or disguised as ordinary storerooms. Whispers persist of cursed relics, jade statues that bring madness, mirrors that show visions of the dead, and texts filled with forbidden knowledge. One of the most chilling legends tells of a chamber sealed during the Ming dynasty, where a group of laborers tasked with walling it up vanished overnight, their tools left scattered as if they'd simply evaporated. Even today, access to these underground spaces is heavily restricted. Chinese authorities permit only limited excavations, citing concerns over structural instability, but skeptics argue the real reason is far darker. Local workers speak of cold spots in certain corridors, disembodied whispers echoing after dusk, and the unsettling feeling of being watched by something unseen. In 1989, a team of researchers allegedly uncovered a sealed doorway adorned with warnings in ancient script. Before they could document it, the project was abruptly shut down by government order. What was behind that door? The official record stays silent, but those who have dared to dig deeper point to an even more disturbing pattern. At least 3 archaeologists who pushed for further exploration met with untimely ends: a drowning, a sudden illness, and a fatal fall down a flight of stairs. Coincidence or something far older and far more deliberate enforcing the silence? The Forbidden City's name was never just metaphorical. Its hidden depths serve as a reminder that some doors were never meant to be opened, and some secrets perhaps were meant to stay buried. Deep in the sands of Egypt, buried beneath the ruins of an ancient pyramid complex, lies a mystery that has haunted archaeologists for centuries: the legendary Labyrinth of Hawara. Herodotus, the Greek historian who walked its halls in the 5th century before the Common Era, described it as a sprawling, maze-like structure so vast and intricate that it dwarfed even the Great Pyramids. It has 12 covered courts with gates facing one another, he wrote, and its walls are covered with carvings. There are 3,000 chambers, half above ground and half beneath it. But what terrified him most wasn't the labyrinth's size, it was what waited inside. The few who entered spoke of blind corridors shifting without warning, floors that gave way to bottomless pits, an air so thick with the scent of incense that it clung to their clothes for weeks. Some never returned at all, vanishing into the labyrinth's depths as if swallowed by the earth itself. For generations, the Egyptian government has forbidden full-scale excavations, labeling the site too dangerous for exploration. But the whispers persist. Local villagers tell of a curse placed by the god Thoth, guardian of hidden knowledge, punishing those who disturb the labyrinth's secrets. In the 1940s, a team of archaeologists ignored the warnings and broke through a sealed passageway, only to retreat in panic hours later. Their notes, later confiscated by authorities, mentioned a chamber lined with black mirrors and something moving in the reflections that didn't match their own. Since then, permits for digging have been revoked outright, leaving modern researchers to rely on radar scans. What those scans reveal is chilling. A network of tunnels stretching far deeper than Herodotus recorded, some descending hundreds of feet into the bedrock. Why build such a place? Some scholars believe it was a ritual space, designed to test initiates of the ancient mystery schools with traps that mirrored the journey through the underworld. Others argue it served a far darker purpose, a prison for things the old world feared to unleash. The most unsettling theory comes from a fragment of text found in a nearby tomb, warning of the maze that breathes. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: the labyrinth still guards its secrets fiercely. Even today, those who linger too long near the ruins report strange phenomena: footsteps echoing from empty passageways, tools disappearing overnight, and a faint, rhythmic humming like distant chanting rising from beneath the sand. Perhaps some doors remain closed for a reason. Egypt isn't done with its mysteries, and if the legends are true, neither is the labyrinth. Beneath the romantic streets of Paris, where lovers stroll and artists paint, lies a shadow city of the dead, a network of tunnels so vast and tangled that even today, no living person has mapped its full extent. The catacombs of Paris are infamous for their walls lined with skulls, open to tourists in carefully curated sections. But beyond the roped-off pathways, past the "Do Not Enter" signs, stretches another world entirely, a maze of restricted passageways where light doesn't reach and the rules of the surface seem to dissolve. These forbidden zones have claimed lives, inspired panic, and spawned legends so dark that the French government welded shut entire corridors. Yet the greatest mystery isn't just what lies down there, it's why so many who venture in never come back. In 1953, a group of students broke into a sealed section near Place Denfert-Rochereau, armed with nothing but candles and curiosity. When rescuers found their belongings days later, the scene defied explanation. A single boot filled with stagnant water, a diary whose last entry read, "The walls are singing," and a camera with its film melted as if exposed to unbearable heat. No bodies were ever recovered. Decades later, urban explorers still whisper of La Plage, a rumored underground beach of fine white sand, where one man claimed to find skeletal hands half buried like seashells. Authorities dismiss such stories as drunken hallucinations, but the evidence is harder to ignore. Thermal imaging has revealed chambers with no documented entrances, their temperatures fluctuating wildly for no discernible reason. Even more unsettling, the graffiti. names scrawled in panic, dates from the 1800s alongside fresh markings, and cryptic phrases like "turn back before it sees you," repeated in multiple languages across centuries. The government's stance is firm. Nearly 180 miles of tunnels remain strictly off-limits, patrolled by specialized police units. Officially, the bans exist to prevent collapses. But those who have glimpsed the deeper tunnels tell of strange acoustics, voices that aren't there, laughter echoing from dead-end passages, and the distant sound of something dragging itself through the dark. In 2007, a film crew disappeared while documenting an unauthorized expedition. Their footage, recovered weeks later, showed 37 minutes of static before a single clear frame. A humanoid silhouette standing just beyond the camera's light, its fingers splayed against the tunnel wall. Forensic analysis confirmed no tampering, no hoax, just one impossible image, and a question that chills to the bone. What watches from the darkness when the living trespass where only the dead belong? Paris glitters above ground, but its bones remember, and in the catacombs' forbidden depths, some say the walls themselves breathe. In the shadow of the Pyramid of the Sun, where the ancient city of Teotihuacán stretches across the Mexican highlands, lies a secret that has terrified locals for generations. A labyrinth of tunnels so forbidden that even speaking of them is said to invite misfortune. Beneath the towering stone monuments, where tourists marvel at the symmetry of a civilization that vanished without a trace, these underground passages wind deep into the earth, sealed off by both modern barriers and something far older. Warnings carved into the walls, symbols so potent that workers who first rediscovered them refused to enter without ritual protection. For years, archaeologists dismissed the stories as superstition, until LiDAR technology peeled back the layers of soil to reveal a truth no one expected. The tunnels weren't just corridors, they formed a precise mirror of the celestial constellations above, aligned with eerie precision to the movements of Venus and the Pleiades. But the real shock came when scans detected chambers no modern explorer had ever reached, their contents vibrating at frequencies that defied explanation. Local guides whisper of a discovery team that, in 2011, used ground-penetrating radar near the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. What they found still hasn't been fully disclosed, but leaked reports mention an underground river and an altar stained with a substance that, when analyzed, matched no known mineral on Earth. Access now requires permits signed by high-ranking officials, and even then, researchers are accompanied by shamans bearing copal incense and obsidian blades. The reasoning: workers tell of tools flung from hands by unseen forces, camera batteries draining in seconds, and a pervasive sense of being herded, as if the tunnels themselves decide who may pass. One anthropologist granted rare permission to document a restricted section in 2019, described hearing whispers in Nahuatl, a language dead for centuries, echoing from walls covered in handprints, all of them too small to be human. Why would a civilization build such a place? Some argue it was a sacred conduit to the underworld, a physical manifestation of their cosmic beliefs. Others point to the chilling absence of burials in the tunnels: no bones, no artifacts, just miles of empty passageways humming with energy that makes hair stand on end. The most haunting theory comes from a surviving Aztec text which speaks of Teotihuacán as the place where men became gods. Were these tunnels meant to elevate or to imprison something that couldn't be allowed to walk under the sun? Today, the Mexican government keeps the deepest sections locked, citing cultural preservation. But those who have stood at the threshold swear the air smells of ozone and burnt honey, and the shadows don't behave as they should. Perhaps some blueprints were never meant to be followed, and perhaps in Teotihuacán's forbidden depths, the past isn't as dormant as we'd like to believe. Just off the coast of Venice, where gondolas glide through sunlit canals, lies an island so haunted that even the bravest fishermen steer clear. Poveglia, a speck of land with a past so dark it's been legally forbidden to the public for decades. Once a quarantine zone for plague victims in the 1700s, then an asylum for the mentally ill, The soil here is said to be 50% human ash, layered with the despair of thousands who died within its walls. But it's not just history that keeps people away. Locals swear the island is alive with voices that aren't there, shadows that move against the wind, and a bell tower that rings on windless nights, though its bell was removed a century ago. In the 1920s, a doctor at the asylum documented experiments so brutal that patients referred to him only as the surgeon. Legend claims he threw himself from the bell tower after confessing to being tormented by the ghosts of those he'd tortured. When workers later recovered his body, they found his skull shattered in a way no fall could explain, as if something had cracked it from the inside. By the 1960s, the Italian government had sealed Poveglia entirely, citing structural instability. But leaked documents from the 1980s reveal a different concern. Sensors placed on the island recorded unexplained energy spikes, audio distortions resembling screams, and temperature drops so sudden they fogged camera lenses. Ghost hunters who have sneaked past patrol boats tell even stranger tales. One team in 2014 claimed their equipment detected a figure standing in the asylum's hallway, a figure their thermal cameras showed as both burning hot and freezing cold at once. Another group fled after recording a voice whispering "run" in Venetian dialect, only to discover their guide, waiting on the boat, had heard the same word in his headphones moments earlier despite being half a mile offshore. Today, trespassing carries heavy fines and police drones monitor the shoreline, but the real deterrent might be the island itself. Fishermen who anchor too close report engines failing, phones losing signal, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Some even speak of a presence that climbs aboard at dusk, leaving wet footprints that vanish before reaching the bow. Whether cursed by plague victims, haunted by the asylum's tortured souls, or something else entirely, Poveglia guards its secrets with a violence that feels almost intentional. As one Venetian historian put it, some places aren't just forbidden, they forbid you. And Poveglia, it seems, has made its choice. Half buried in the rose-red cliffs of Jordan's desert, the ancient city of Petra hides its most forbidden secrets not in plain sight, but deep within the twisting gorge known as the Sick. While tourists marvel at the famous treasury facade, few realize that behind its towering columns lie chambers sealed for centuries, their entrances barred by steel gates and armed guards. Officially, the restrictions are due to crumbling masonry and erosion, but the local Bedouin whose ancestors have guarded these ruins for generations tell a different story. They speak of tombs that refuse to sleep, of altars where offerings still vanish overnight, and of a curse carved above one hidden doorway: "He who disturbs the stones shall join them." Recent drone surveys have only deepened the mystery. Thermal imaging revealed anomalies behind several blocked passageways, spaces too large and too geometrically precise to be natural formations. One chamber, inaccessible without dismantling an entire cliff face, appears to contain a circular platform etched with symbols matching no known Nabatean script. When archaeologists requested permission for ground-penetrating radar, Jordanian authorities denied the application outright. The reason? A Bedouin guide who accompanied the drone team reported hearing a low hum emanating from the walls, a sound that stopped the moment his handheld compass spun wildly and cracked its glass face. The legends predate modern exploration. Ottoman records from the 1800s mention a British adventurer who bribed his way into a sealed tomb near the Street of Facades. He emerged 3 days later, blind and babbling about a light that peeled back the flesh. His sketches, now housed in a private collection in London, show a domed chamber filled with niches, each holding a terracotta jar sealed with bitumen. No such jars have ever been documented in Petra's excavated tombs. Even more unsettling are the accounts from structural engineers. In 2019, during routine stabilization work near the monastery, workers reported feeling vibrations through their tools, rhythmic pulses that matched no known seismic activity. Sensors placed overnight recorded sounds resembling stone grinding against stone, though nothing moved. The project was quietly abandoned, with the team leader telling superiors only this: the mountain remembers its dead. Why seal these chambers so fiercely? Some scholars point to Nabatean burial practices, suggesting the tunnels could house royal catacombs or repositories for sacred texts. Others whisper of something older lurking beneath Petra's sandstone, a remnant of the mysterious civilization that predated even the Nabateans, who simply built atop ruins they didn't understand. One clue lingers in a fragment of Roman graffiti near the Sixth entrance, warning travelers to beware the singers in the rock. Whether metaphor or literal threat, the message resonates today. Because sometimes the most forbidding barriers aren't made of iron or law, but of the unshakable certainty that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. High on the cliffs of northern Greece, where the Aegean Sea crashes against rocky shores, a land untouched by time stands frozen in devotion: Mount Athos, the holy mountain. This secluded peninsula isn't just a sanctuary for monks, it's a place where ancient laws still hold sway, and one rule in particular has sparked centuries of debate: no woman may set foot here. Not just a tradition, but a Byzantine-era edict enforced with startling strictness. Even female animals, with rare exceptions for cats to control rodents, are banned. The reasoning stretches back to the year 1060, when Emperor Constantine IX declared the mountain, Avaton, a sacred retreat for male ascetics alone. But behind the legal decrees lies something far older, something the monks protect with whispered reverence, relics believed to be so potent that their presence demands absolute purity or unimaginable consequences. The libraries of Athos hold manuscripts detailing miracles tied to these artifacts. A fragment of the true cross that supposedly bled when a smuggler tried to remove it in the 1500s, an icon of the Virgin Mary that weeps fragrant oil during times of crisis, and most chilling of all, a crypt beneath the great Lavra monastery said to contain the skull of Saint Athanasius. Those who have glimpsed it describe the bone as unnaturally warm, with dark stains around the eye sockets that never fade, no matter how often it's cleaned. Monks speak of visions coming to those who guard it, prophetic dreams of global calamities that later proved true. In 1987, one elder reportedly collapsed during Vespers, crying out about a city of towers falling, exactly 3 days before the stock market crash known as Black Monday. But the mountain's defenses aren't merely spiritual. Violate the ban and the consequences are swift. In 2008, a Moldovan stowaway disguised as a man was discovered at Vatopti Monastery. The monks didn't call the police, they performed an all-night exorcism, convinced her presence had stirred the shadows. She was expelled at dawn, hysterical, clutching a charred piece of parchment no one could translate. Greek authorities treat these rules with eerie deference. In 1936, a governor's wife attempted to tour the peninsula. Soldiers turned her yacht away with rifles raised, and her husband was dismissed within the week. Even modern drones flown by journalists mysteriously malfunction over Athos, their cameras capturing only static before crashing into the sea. What truly justifies such extremes? Some scholars argue the restrictions stem from ancient fears of temptation, a way to preserve monastic focus. Others point to Athos's role as the spiritual guardian of Byzantium's darkest secrets: texts on alchemy, prophecies about the end of empires, and perhaps even artifacts from the Library of Alexandria smuggled out before its destruction. But the most haunting theory comes from a 13th century scroll hidden in Esphigmenou Monastery's vaults. It describes a trial by fire conducted on a woman who breached the mountain's borders. According to the text, the flames refused to touch her, but the ground beneath her feet cracked open, swallowing her whole as monks chanted verses from Revelation. Whether myth or warning, the message is clear. Some barriers exist not by human decree, but by something far older, far fiercer, watching from the icon's golden eyes. To this day, Athos remains a realm suspended between eras, where the divine and the forbidden walk hand in hand. The monks will tell you their laws protect holiness. The skeptics call it superstition, but perhaps both miss the truth that some places are locked not to keep us out, but to keep what sleeps inside from waking. Rising from the swamps of Micronesia like a shattered dream, the ruins of Nan Madol sprawl across 92 artificial islands, a city built atop coral reefs, where basalt logs weighing tons each were stacked with impossible precision over 1,000 years ago. Known as the Venice of the Pacific, this labyrinth of canals and crumbling temples isn't just abandoned, it's actively forbidden after sunset. Local law warns that the spirits of drowned workers still patrol the waterlogged passages, their whispers carrying on the tide. Fishermen refuse to cast nets near the site, citing nets that return torn and empty, or worse, tangled with bones that crumble to dust when exposed to air. The taboos run deeper than superstition. When German colonizers attempted to excavate the ruins in the early 1900s, their workers vanished overnight, leaving behind tools rusted as if submerged for decades. A later Japanese expedition in the 1930s documented eerie phenomena: compasses spinning uncontrollably near certain structures, fresh water turning brackish in canteens, and one officer's journal entry describing a figure watching from the waves, its face too long, its fingers too many. By sunrise, the entire team had fled, abandoning crates of artifacts that later corroded into unrecognizable lumps. Modern researchers face even greater barriers. The Micronesian government enforces strict permits, requiring local spiritual elders to perform protective rites before any fieldwork. Those who bypass these rituals pay a steep price. In 1995, an American archaeologist ignored warnings and camped overnight on the central islet of Nan Dawas. Rescuers found him at dawn, cowering in a half-collapsed tomb, babbling about stone that breathes. His camera held 37 photos of the same empty corridor, each frame progressively darker, as if something had been approaching the lens. What makes Nan Madol so fiercely guarded? The ruins defy conventional history. The basalt columns, some weighing 50 tons, were quarried miles away with no evidence of sledges or pulleys. Oral traditions speak of twin sorcerer kings, Olasipa and Olasopa, who commanded the rocks to fly. Even more unsettling are the underwater scans revealing structures beneath the reef, a sunken counterpart to the city above, its alignment matching no known astronomical pattern. Local legends call it the Shadow City, and warn that disturbing its sleep risks awakening something older than the islands themselves. Today, the ruins stand as a testament to humanity's forgotten chapters and the uncompromising power of the taboos that protect them. As one elder told researchers, some stones are not meant to be lifted, some waters are not meant to be still. Nan Madol's greatest secret may not be how it was built, but why its builders ensured it would never be fully uncovered. The answers, like the drowned spirits said to guard them, remain just beneath the surface. Beneath the Great Sphinx of Giza, where desert winds carve shadows into ancient limestone, lies a secret that has fueled speculation for centuries. What began as whispers among early explorers of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx's massive paws has become one of Egypt's most fiercely guarded mysteries. Modern radar scans confirm there are voids there, spaces too geometrically precise to be natural formations. Yet to this day, the Egyptian government refuses to allow full excavation, citing preservation concerns. But skeptics point to another clue, a series of odd incidents involving researchers who got too close to the truth. In the 1920s, famed psychic Edgar Cayce stunned audiences by claiming the Sphinx guarded a hall of records, buried deep beneath its paws, a repository of Atlantean knowledge that would rewrite human history. While mainstream archaeologists dismissed his visions, later technology lent eerie credence to his words. Ground-penetrating radar in the 1990s revealed a rectangular chamber beneath the Sphinx's left forepaw, its dimensions matching descriptions from ancient texts of a hidden archive. But when a Japanese team attempted to drill a small camera into the space in 1999, their equipment failed inexplicably. Workers reported a low-frequency hum vibrating through the bedrock, and the project was abruptly halted by government order. Theories about what lies below range from the plausible to the chilling. Some scholars argue the chamber holds papyri from a lost civilization, possibly even predating dynastic Egypt. Others, pointing to the Sphinx's water erosion pattern suggesting it's far older than believed, speculate the vaults contain artifacts from an unknown pre-pharaonic culture. But the most unsettling accounts come from local laborers. During a groundwater pumping project in 2010, workers near the Sphinx's tail claimed to hear metallic echoes from below, as if something massive was shifting in the dark. Authorities sealed the area within hours, and the official report attributed the sounds to collapsing sand. Why such secrecy? Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities insists it's about protecting fragile archaeology, not hiding truth. Yet leaked documents from a 2016 internal meeting reveal heated debates about cultural destabilization if certain discoveries were made public. One senior archaeologist present reportedly argued, "Some doors stay closed because humanity isn't ready for what's behind them." The sentiment echoes an even older warning, a Coptic text from the 6th century found in a monastery near Luxor, describing the Sphinx as the guardian of the first and last things, its chambers sealed by a word that must not be spoken twice. Perhaps the greatest clue lies not in what's been found, but what's been lost. In the early 20th century, a French engineer named Émile Barrès documented a narrow shaft beneath the Sphinx's hindquarters, leading to what his notes describe as a room of mirrors. His sketches show walls lined with polished metal plates, angled to reflect something at the chamber's center, but the final page is torn away, and Barrès himself refused to speak of it in later years. Today, that shaft is welded shut with steel plates, its location omitted from official maps. The Sphinx has kept its secrets for millennia, gazing eastward as empires rise and fall. But as technology peels back layers of stone, one question grows louder. Are we unearthing knowledge or awakening something meant to stay buried? The sand whispers warnings. The authorities tighten restrictions, and beneath it all, the vaults wait silent, sealed, and stirring with possibilities too profound to ignore. In the heart of Kerala, where the scent of jasmine and sandalwood hangs thick in the humid air, the Padmanabhaswamy temple guards a secret that has baffled historians and treasure hunters alike, a vault so heavily protected that even modern courts dare not order it opened. Known simply as Vault B, this ancient chamber lies beneath the temple's golden spires, its iron doors festooned with intricately carved serpents, their stone eyes seeming to follow anyone who approaches. Legend claims the vault holds treasures beyond imagination, golden idols studded with rubies, chests of diamonds as large as fists, and ropes of pearls that once adorned kings. Yet what keeps the world from claiming this fortune isn't just law or locks, it's a curse so potent that even the bravest hesitate to test it. The temple's history stretches back millennia, said to be built atop an even older shrine dedicated to Vishnu in his serpentine form. But Vault B's modern saga began in 2011, when a Supreme Court inventory team pried open 5 other vaults, uncovering a hoard worth over $20 billion. Solid gold coconuts, 17th century Napoleonic coins, and a 3-foot-tall solid emerald Buddha. But Vault B resisted. Its door, lacking hinges or visible mechanisms, bore no keyhole, just 2 massive cobras etched into the metal, their tails intertwining in a knot no artisan could replicate today. The team's locksmith later confessed his tools grew burning hot when he touched the door, and a visiting priest warned that the chamber was protected by Naga Bandham, a serpentine seal conjured by ancient sages. Open it without the proper mantras, the warning went, and catastrophe would follow. Skeptics scoffed until strange events began dogging those who pushed for access. One lawyer arguing for the vault's excavation developed sudden paralysis in court. A historian who publicly mocked the curse was found dead in his hotel room, his body surrounded by a sulfurous stench despite no trace of poison. Most chilling of all, the temple's hereditary guardians, the Travancore royal family, produced a 400-year-old palm leaf manuscript predicting floods, famine, and war if the vault were ever breached. Even science offers eerie validation. Sonar scans reveal an 18-foot void beneath the chamber, suggesting a bottomless pit or hidden tunnel system, a detail that matches folklore about the vault being a gateway to the netherworld. Today, the debate rages on in Indian courts, with factions split between unlocking history and respecting ancient warnings. The temple's current priests perform daily rituals to cool the vault's energy, circling its doors with lamps fed by ghee while chanting verses from the Garuda Purana. Meanwhile, infrared scans show temperature fluctuations around the door that defy physics, spiking violently during eclipses and new moons. Whether divine safeguard or elaborate psychological deterrent, one thing is certain. Vault B remains one of the few places on Earth where modern greed has met its match in the sheer, unshakable power of belief. And perhaps that's the real treasure, proof that some mysteries refuse to bow to the modern world's demands. Beneath the grandeur of Vatican City, where pilgrims flock to marvel at Michelangelo's masterpieces, lies a shadow world few are permitted to enter, the sealed catacombs of Rome, where the bones of early Christian martyrs sleep in restless silence. These underground labyrinths stretch for miles beneath the eternal city, but the Vatican's restricted sections remain fiercely guarded, accessible only to select clergy and scholars with papal clearance. The reason, workers whisper of corridors where the air itself turns malevolent, where sudden gusts of wind extinguish lanterns in tunnels untouched by drafts for centuries. In 1982, a team of archaeologists cataloging relics in the catacombs of St. Calixtus reported a phenomenon so unsettling their findings were redacted. Skeletal remains arranged in patterns mimicking constellations, their skulls tilted upward as if frozen mid-prayer. 3 fainted within hours, complaining of bad air, a phrase locals used to describe the ancient belief that certain tombs exhale curses. The Vatican dismisses such claims as superstition, attributing the fainting spells to carbon dioxide buildup. Yet historical records tell a darker story. 18th century excavators described a sealed chamber beneath the Basilica of St. Sebastian, its walls covered in scratches as if something had tried to claw its way out. When opened, the room contained no remains, just a single iron collar bolted to the floor, its interior lined with shards of bone. Even modern technology falters here. Infrared scans conducted in 2015 revealed anomalies in temperature along specific tunnels, forming precise geometric shapes that vanish when researchers approach. One priest, granted rare access to these zones, later wrote of a pressure in the chest and the uncanny sensation of being watched from the hollows of nearby niches. Legends woven into Vatican lore only deepen the mystery. A 12th century manuscript in the secret archives describes a cardinal who ventured into the forbidden depths beneath St. Peter's, seeking the tomb of the apostle himself. He returned mute, his tongue blackened, clutching a scrap of parchment with a single word, "Dormiant they sleep." But the most chilling account comes from a restoration team working near the catacombs of Priscilla in 2008. Their audio equipment picked up a low, rhythmic chanting in Aramaic, a language dead for millennia emanating from a walled-off passage. When they broke through, they found only a child's skeleton, its fingers curled around a clay tablet inscribed with symbols later identified as a warning: "The dead here walk with God." Why seal away bones and dust? Officially, the Church cites preservation concerns and respect for sacred remains. But those who have walked these corridors speak of something more visceral: a sense of trespassing where the boundary between earth and eternity wears thin. Perhaps the martyrs' whispers aren't mere echoes. Perhaps their final prayers, etched into stone and marrow, were never meant for living ears. One truth remains: in Rome's forbidden catacombs, the past isn't buried. It waits. Buried beneath a grassy hill in central Mexico lies a secret larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, yet you'd never know it by looking. The Pyramid of Cholula, nicknamed Teotihuacán or man-made mountain, stretches nearly 1,500 feet wide, its true form concealed beneath centuries of dirt and vegetation. But beneath this unassuming facade, a network of forbidden tunnels weaves through the ancient structure, sealed off after multiple expeditions ended in terror. Workers first uncovering these passageways in the 1930s reported tools vanishing mid-dig, disembodied whispers in long-dead Nahuatl dialects, and worst of all, shadows that moved independently of any light source. The tunnels themselves are engineering marvels, their walls adorned with vibrant murals depicting rituals lost to time. One chamber, discovered in 1971 by archaeologist Ignacio Marquina, contained an altar stained with traces of hematite, a mineral the Aztecs associated with sacrificial blood rites. Local lore speaks of this space as Teotihuacán, a gateway to the underworld where priests once communed with rain gods. And something else: the few permitted to study these murals describe figures with elongated skulls and hollow eyes, their painted forms clutching obsidian knives. Stranger still, infrared scans reveal hollow spaces behind these artworks, suggesting hidden chambers, but attempts to breach them have been met with unexplained resistance. In 2003, a drilling team's equipment malfunctioned simultaneously, their bits snapping clean off as if hitting something far harder than volcanic rock. Legends surrounding the pyramid only deepen the unease. Aztec codices describe Cholula as a sanctuary for Nahuel's shape-shifting sorcerers who could walk between worlds. One colonial-era manuscript tells of Spanish conquistadors bricking up a tunnel after hearing choruses of the damned echoing from within. Modern accounts are eerily similar. In 2015, a tourism official inspecting the tunnels for a potential night tour collapsed, later describing a hand, black as basalt, grasping his ankle from a ventilation shaft that hadn't been opened in 400 years. The project was cancelled overnight. Today, less than a quarter of the pyramid's 6-mile tunnel system is accessible to the public. The rest remains guarded by padlocked gates and armed patrols, though some say the real watchmen are older. Farmers tending the hillside report seeing figures in feathered headdresses standing at the tunnel entrances at dusk, their outlines blurring into the stone when approached. Whether hallucination, legend, or something far older, one truth remains: Cholula's pyramid doesn't feel abandoned. It feels occupied, and the shadows pacing its corridors seem content to let modern visitors believe they're merely walking through history. Instead of walking past something that still watches from the dark, perched on Cornwall's storm-lashed cliffs, where Atlantic winds howl through crumbling stone arches, the ruins of Tintagel Castle straddle the line between history and myth. Said to be the birthplace of King Arthur, this windswept fortress isn't just an archaeological site, it's a place where the veil between worlds grows thin after sundown. Locals have whispered for centuries of spectral knights patrolling the cliffs, their armor glinting in moonlight that shouldn't catch metal long rusted to dust. So real are these apparitions that English Heritage, the site's caretaker, bans all visitors after sunset, not for safety, but because too many have fled screaming from encounters with figures who answer no living voice. The legends run deep here. Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century chronicles first linked Tintagel to Arthur's conception, claiming the wizard Merlin disguised King Uther Pendragon to seduce the Duchess Igraine within these very walls. But modern excavations reveal a stranger truth. The castle predates Arthurian lore by 700 years, its 6th century foundations littered with Mediterranean pottery and Byzantine coins, evidence of a thriving trade hub where none should exist. The real mystery, a slate slab unearthed in 1998, etched with a Latin inscription reading Artagnu, a name some scholars argue echoes Arthur. Coincidence, perhaps, but then why did the dig's lead archaeologist quit abruptly, leaving notes describing footsteps in empty corridors and a pervasive scent of wet iron and burning time? Nighttime brings darker tales. In 2015, a security guard patrolling the footbridge reported seeing a procession of shadowy figures carrying a body toward Merlin's cave below the cliffs. When backup arrived, they found his flashlight melted, its plastic warped as if exposed to extreme heat. Though the night air was frigid, even daytime visitors sensed something watching from the ruins. Thermal scans in 2020 revealed cold spots moving against the wind, clustering near a sealed tunnel locals call Morgana's Passage. Legends claim this was where the sorceress practiced her darkest magic, and those who lean too close to its barred entrance swear they hear a woman's laughter echoing from the void. The most chilling account comes from a 19th-century clergyman who dared spend the night in the castle's remains. His journal, now housed in Bodman's museum, describes a banquet hall materializing before him, its long tables laden with rotting feasts. "The knights wore faces I knew from tombs," he wrote, "their flesh clinging to bone, their voices whispering of a war that never ended. He was found at dawn, catatonic, his hair turned white." Today, Tintagel's daytime visitors tread carefully, avoiding the western cliffs where the ground often trembles without cause. Some say it's the weight of history pressing up through the rock. Others insist it's something far older, the tread of an eternal round table, still convening in a realm just beyond sight. One thing's certain, this isn't just a castle. It's a threshold, and the things waiting on the other side grow restless when the sun goes down. Deep beneath a grassy mound in China's Shaanxi province lies one of history's most tantalizing secrets, the untouched tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the ruthless unifier of China and its first emperor. While the terracotta warriors standing guard nearby have become global icons, the heart of the necropolis remains sealed, its treasures protected by something far more sinister than locks or laws. Ancient texts describe rivers of liquid mercury, crossbows rigged to fire at intruders, and ceilings studded with gemstones mimicking the night sky. But modern science confirms at least one of these horrors is chillingly real. Soil tests reveal mercury levels around the tomb that are 80 times higher than normal, suggesting the legendary poison rivers weren't just myth. And the Chinese government, after initially permitting cautious exploration, has since declared the entire site off-limits, citing national heritage preservation. But whispers among archaeologists tell another story, of equipment failing without explanation, of workers reporting hallucinations, and of a sealed stone doorway that hums when touched, as if something vast stirs behind it. The tomb's defenses are as ingenious as they are deadly. Sima Qian, China's grand historian writing a century after the emperor's death, detailed trap-laden passageways designed to collapse upon trespassers, pits filled with bronze blades, and most unnerving, a self-sealing mechanism triggered by shifting air pressure. In 2012, ground-penetrating radar confirmed the presence of an underground palace complex spanning nearly 4 square miles, its layout mirroring the emperor's capital, Xianyang. But the scans also detected anomalies, metallic objects arranged in precise geometric patterns that correspond to no known funerary practice, and a central chamber whose walls appear lined with an unidentified dense material. When a team attempted to drill a micro-camera through a ventilation shaft in 2015, the feed cut out moments before reaching the interior, the last transmitted image. A swirling silver mist that coated the lens in seconds consistent with vaporized mercury. Why such extreme protections for a tomb already 2 millennia old? Qin Shi Huang wasn't just any ruler, he was obsessed with immortality, dispatching expeditions to find mythical elixirs and consuming mercury pills believing they'd prolong his life. Ironically, those very pills likely killed him at age 49, but his preparations for the afterlife suggest he expected to rule beyond death. The terracotta army, with its 8,000 unique soldiers, was merely the outer garrison. According to sealed Han Dynasty records, the inner tomb contains palaces staffed by concubines and officials cast in gold, mechanized birds that sing with bellows of trapped wind, and a scale model of China with rivers flowing with quicksilver. Most haunting of all is the description of the emperor's resting place, a bronze sarcophagus suspended by magnetism in the center of a celestial map, forever orbiting among the stars as his spirit surveys his eternal domain. Modern attempts to circumvent the dangers have met with eerie resistance. In 1980, a farmer digging a well near the site struck a hollow chamber. Before authorities could respond, he fell into a months-long coma, his skin peeling as if chemically burned. Samples taken from his clothing contained traces of arsenic and mercury sulfide, ingredients used in Taoist longevity potions that were also potent neurotoxins. More recently, in 2021, a robotic probe sent into a drainage tunnel froze mid-scan, its sensors registering a sudden temperature drop to -22 degrees Celsius, in a region where the underground temperature is a constant 17 degrees. The machine's final transmission was a garbled string of characters later identified as an archaic form of the word forbidden. Perhaps the greatest clue to the tomb's secrets lies not in technology but in silence. When the terracotta warriors were first unearthed, their painted lifelike faces stunned the world. Yet the tomb itself remains deliberately undisturbed, as if modern China recognizes some boundaries even time shouldn't erase. Or perhaps after 2,000 years, the emperor's final command still holds power, a warning etched above the hidden entrance according to a smuggled Tang Dynasty scroll: "Disturb my rest and share my fate." The mercury pools still gleam, the crossbows remain taut, and the stars of gemstones wait in the dark. Qin Shi Huang's greatest triumph wasn't unifying a kingdom. It was building a tomb so fearsome, not even the boldest of our era dare challenge it. Beneath the ferry chimneys and wind-carved valleys of Cappadocia, where tourists flock to admire the rock-cut churches and hot air balloons, lies a darkness far older and far stranger than the guidebooks reveal. This volcanic landscape in central Turkey hides not just the famous underground cities but entire sealed levels that haven't seen daylight in centuries. While visitors marvel at Derinkuyu's sprawling tunnels, home to 20,000 people in Byzantine times, few realize that deeper passageways remain blocked by order of the Turkish military, their entrances guarded by armed patrols and motion sensors. The official explanation cites structural instability, but locals tell a different story, of caves that hum in the dead of night, of walls that shimmer like wet obsidian under flashlight beams, and of artifacts recovered from the lowest chambers, objects so unnerving they were whisked away to Ankara under black tarps before dawn. The first hints of something anomalous emerged in 1963, when a farmer renovating his home broke through a wall into a tunnel leading to Derinkuyu's rediscovery. As archaeologists mapped the upper levels, they noted bizarre architectural quirks: doors carved from single slabs of stone weighing half a ton, ventilation shafts drilled with precision that defied the era's tools, and circular defense doors that rolled shut like bank vaults. But the real mystery lay deeper. Workers probing a blocked corridor in 1982 reported their picks striking something metallic, followed by a sound like 1,000 bees trapped in glass. When they finally cleared the rubble, they found a smooth, egg-shaped chamber lined with an unknown alloy, empty except for a pedestal holding a crescent-shaped object that emitted a faint blue glow when touched. The military cordoned off the site within hours, and the team was forced to sign lifetime non-disclosure agreements. Whispers of what lies below only grew stranger. In 2007, a geological survey team using ground-penetrating radar discovered a vast cavity beneath Kaymakli, another underground city, its dimensions too geometrically precise to be natural. Their report, later leaked online, described harmonic resonances picked up by seismic mics' rhythmic pulses at 17 Hz, a frequency known to induce dread in humans. Even more chilling were the accounts from shepherds grazing near the sealed entrances. One man claimed his dog vanished near a ventilation shaft, its whines fading upward as if pulled into the rock itself. Another described a night spent hiding from a storm in a shallow cave, only to wake miles away with no memory of walking, his clothes reeking of burnt sulfur. The Turkish government stance remains firm. No foreign researchers are permitted near the restricted zones, and even local academics face intense scrutiny. When a German television crew attempted to film near a known sealed entrance in 2019, their equipment inexplicably failed except for a single thermal camera that captured fleeting heat signatures moving through solid bedrock. The military now stations special forces units at key sites, their presence explained as anti-terrorism measures. Yet villagers speak of black helicopters landing at midnight, of unmarked trucks hauling crates too heavy for their size, and of a new concrete barrier erected over an ancient stairwell after a team of engineers emerged pale and shaking, one muttering about faces in the walls. What could justify such secrecy? Some point to Hittite texts describing star people who took refuge underground during celestial wars. Others cite Byzantine chronicles warning of Cappadocia's hollow hills where angels of brass guarded forbidden knowledge. The most compelling clue might lie in a mosaic from a nearby 6th century church, depicting St. George slaying a dragon, except the dragon is a sinuous machine covered in glowing runes, its tail vanishing into a labyrinth beneath the saint's feet. Whether ancient arsenal, alien vault, or something beyond modern classification, one thing is clear: beneath Cappadocia's postcard-perfect surface, the past isn't just buried. It's waiting, and whatever sleeps there has keepers who ensure it doesn't wake. Nestled in the dense cedar forests of Japan's Mai Prefecture, the Ai's Grand Shrine stands as a sacred paradox, a place both eternal and ephemeral. Every 20 years, like clockwork, this Shinto complex is demolished and rebuilt from scratch on adjacent land, a practice dating back 1,300 years. On the surface, it's a marvel of preservation, ensuring age-old craftsmanship endures. But the elders whisper another purpose. Each reconstruction is a spiritual trap, a way to contain the kami, the gods or spirits within the shrine's hallowed grounds before they grow restless. The inner sanctums, shielded by towering wooden fences, are so forbidden that even the emperor may not enter. Only the highest priests, purified through days of ritual, dare approach these spaces where the divine is said to dwell. The ceremonies surrounding the shrine's renewal are as precise as they are cryptic. Every detail, from the type of cypress used to the knots in the straw ropes, follows instructions supposedly handed down from the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. Workers must undergo misogi, a purification ritual involving icy waterfalls and sacred chants, before touching so much as a splinter of the new construction. The most chilling requirement: all materials must be harvested from specific mountains and forests, many of which are now protected by law, not for environmental reasons, but because locals insist the trees themselves are vessels for spirits. Lumberjacks tasked with felling these sacred cedars report tools breaking inexplicably, voices whispering from empty glades, and sudden storms that vanish the moment an axe is set down. At the heart of the mystery lies the Goshoden, the shrine's inner sanctuary. No photograph has ever been taken of its interior. Even aerial drones flown too close have malfunctioned and crashed. Scholars guessing at its contents rely on 8th century texts describing a mirror gifted by Amaterasu, a sword that glows faintly in moonlight, and a woven robe that rustles when no one is wearing it. The few priests permitted inside describe sensations of being watched by unseen presences, doors that open without touch, and a peculiar scent, like citrus and burning incense, that clings to their robes for weeks. Why such extreme secrecy? Shinto tradition holds that the kami grow weary of human contact over time, their energy waning until renewal revitalizes them. But some suspect a darker logic. In 1965, a journalist disguised as a laborer sneaked into the reconstruction site. His published account, later retracted under government pressure, described workers burying small clay jars beneath the new foundation, their contents emitting a low hum when held to the ear. When questioned, shrine officials would only say these were vessels for restless things. Today, the cycle continues. The next rebuild is slated for 2033, and already the sacred cedars are being marked for harvest. The priests will chant, the carpenters will carve, and the fences will rise anew, a barricade against both mortal curiosity and whatever stirs behind them. For in Shinto, the most sacred truths are not meant to be seen. They're meant to be felt, feared, and forever just out of reach. And at eyes, the line between reverence and containment has always been as thin as rice paper and just as easily torn. Beneath the golden sands of Saqqara, where Egypt's earliest pharaohs laid their dead, a discovery so unsettling was made in 2020 that archaeologists immediately sealed the site under armed guard. Hidden beneath the step pyramid's shadow, a series of vertical shafts plunge over 100 feet into the bedrock, their walls lined with hieroglyphs not praising gods but warning of them. Beware the sleeping ones, one inscription reads, its paint still vivid after millennia. Disturb their rest and yours shall cease. The message is underscored by something far more chilling, the mummies themselves. Unlike the dignified repose of royal burials, these bodies were found contorted, their limbs twisted as if frozen mid-convulsion, jaws unhinged in silent screams. One clutched a scrap of papyrus bearing a single phrase, "They dream in stone." The discovery sent shockwaves through Egyptology. For years, researchers assumed Saqqara's secrets had been exhausted until ground-penetrating radar revealed these shafts in 2019. Initial excavations uncovered sarcophagi of an unknown black granite, their surfaces unmarked by names or titles. When workers pried one open in 2021, they found not a mummy, but a nest of coiled linen strips, their core hollow as if something had unwound itself and slithered away. The site was immediately closed, with Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities citing hazardous gases. Yet those present tell a different story. One archaeologist's journal, later leaked online, described a low-frequency vibration emanating from the deepest shaft, a hum that made fillings ache in teeth and induced nosebleeds in half the team. What makes these tombs unlike any others in Egypt? The hieroglyphs offer cryptic clues. Unlike typical funerary texts guiding souls to the afterlife, these inscriptions speak of binding and containment. A cartouche near one shaft depicts a serpentine figure with human hands, its body wrapped around a solar disk, an image matched only in a single, previously dismissed New Kingdom scroll describing the crawling ones who came before Ra. Even more unsettling are the burial artifacts, mirrors of polished obsidian facing downward, bronze rattles filled with mercury, and clay jars sealed with bitumen, their contents emitting a faint organic scent after all these centuries. The most disturbing find came from a side chamber where a team using robotic cameras glimpsed murals unlike any in the archaeological record. The paintings showed humanoid figures with elongated skulls and too many joints, their skin rendered in a bluish pigment that glowed under UV light. Between them stood a familiar shape, one of the black sarcophagi, its lid slightly ajar. Before the robot could advance, the feed cut out. When the device was retrieved, its lens was cracked radially, as if subjected to immense pressure from within. Why seal these shafts so fiercely? The official line remains public safety, but insiders point to an incident in 2022 when a drunken security guard pried open a secondary passage. He was found at dawn, his body rigid in a pose mirroring the mummies, his face locked in a grin too wide for human musculature. Toxicology reports showed nothing. No poison, no gas, just a man who'd seen something that rewrote his very anatomy. Today, Saqqara's prohibited necropolis stands as a riddle wrapped in stone and silence. The hieroglyphs promise the sleepers will wake when the sky burns black. The mummies suggest they already have, and the shafts they hum in the dark a sound like teeth grinding against bedrock. Waiting, counting, dreaming high above the sacred valley where the Andes claw at the sky, Machu Picchu's most sinister secret isn't in the sunlit ruins, it's hidden in the shadowed belly of Huayna Picchu. The Temple of the Moon, a cave complex carved into the living rock, yawns like a jagged mouth between two sacred peaks. While tourists snap photos of the iconic citadel below, few realize that just a treacherous hike away lies a place so charged with dark energy that Peruvian officials have barred entry after sundown. The reason, not crumbling stones or erosion, but something far older. A lingering echo of sacrifices so brutal, even the conquistadors dared not write of them. Unlike Machu Picchu's polished dry stone walls, the Temple of the Moon feels grown, its irregular chambers shaped to mimic the contours of a jaguar's maw. The walls drip with niches where mummified remains once sat upright, their hollowed eye sockets watching as priests performed rites under the glow of bronze mirrors reflecting moonlight. Modern archaeologists found the floors still sticky with an unidentified resin, its molecular structure matching no known Inca adhesive. Local Quechua guides refused to approach the central altar, a massive slab of black andesite veined with quartz without leaving coca leaf offerings. They whisper of Nyakak's soul-eating spirits said to linger where blood pooled thickest. The bans began after a string of disappearances in the 1980s. Hikers venturing off the permitted trails would vanish near the temple's entrance, only to be found days later in impossible places perched on sheer cliff faces, curled inside crevices too narrow for human passage. The sole survivor, a German backpacker rescued in 1987, claimed to have followed men in feathered robes into the caves before waking miles away. His shirt caked in a substance forensics identified as oxidized copper and traces of hemoglobin predating Columbus by centuries. What makes this site different from other Inca shrines? The carvings tell a story not of celestial worship, but of something far more visceral. Along the passageways, reliefs depict figures with elongated skulls. Some scholars argue they represent elite head-binding practices, but the poses suggest something unnatural. One panel shows a priest holding a Toomey knife to a victim's throat, yet the streams of blood flow upward, defying gravity to coil around a stylized crescent moon. Spanish chronicles hint at lunar rites conducted here, where captured warriors from rival tribes were returned to the night in ceremonies timed to eclipses. But the most disturbing evidence lies in the cave's acoustics. A 2018 study by acoustic engineers found that specific recesses amplify screams to deafening levels while suppressing all other sounds, a feature far too precise to be accidental. Today, the temple's inner chambers remain sealed behind iron gates, accessible only to archaeologists with military escorts. The official story cites preservation concerns, but the guards carry more than keys. Their belts sag with pouches of huaroro seeds, traditional Andean wards against evil. Some say the precautions aren't just for tourist safety. In 2021, a restoration team working near the entrance reported their LiDAR equipment malfunctioning at dawn, projecting ghostly humanoid shapes onto the cave wall shadows with no physical source. By noon, every battery in their gear had drained to zero despite being fully charged. Machu Picchu may draw the crowds, but the Temple of the Moon holds the citadel's shadow self, a place where the boundary between ritual and reality wears thin. The stones remember the prayers soaked in blood, the mirrors that stole moonlight, and the altar where something older than the Inca still stirs when the night grows long. Perhaps the gates exist not to keep us out, but to keep whatever answers in the dark from slipping free. Deep in the jungles of Chiapas, where howler monkeys shriek through the canopy and vines strangle crumbling temples, Peilinck's most infamous secret lies entombed beneath the Temple of the Inscriptions, the blood-red sarcophagus of the so-called Red Queen. When archaeologists first cracked its lid in 1994, they recoiled as a viscous crimson fluid seeped from the stone, coating their gloves in what looked disturbingly like gore. Tests later identified it as cinnabar, a mercury-rich pigment sacred to the Maya, but the locals knew better. To them, this wasn't just a burial chamber, it was a gateway to Xibalba, the Mayan underworld, and that oozing red. A warning in a language science couldn't translate. The tomb's occupant, a noblewoman shrouded in jade beads and a haunting jade mask, was no ordinary royal. Her bones, stained vermilion from head to toe, rested on a bed of the same eerie pigment, as if she'd been baptized in it. The Maya reserved cinnabar for their most sacred rites, believing its mercurial properties could trap souls or tether them between worlds. But the real terror lay in the chamber's murals. Unlike Peilinck's typical celebrations of celestial events, these depicted a netherworld landscape: twisted trees with skeletal branches, faceless gods wading through rivers of blood, and most chilling, a veiled figure, the Red Queen herself, standing before a doorway shaped like a gaping mouth. Modern conservators who have worked in the tomb report recurring nightmares of that doorway, its edges slick with red, exhaling a scent like copper and spoiled flowers. The Maya weren't afraid of death, they revered it as a transitional state. But Xibalba, that was different. Their texts describe it as a sentient place, a labyrinth where rooms shifted to trap the unwary, where demons played ball games with human heads, and where the lords of decay tested souls with horrors beyond flesh. The Red Queen's tomb mirrors these tales too closely to dismiss. The sarcophagus sits atop a shaft plunging straight into the pyramid's heart, a feature found in no other Mesoamerican burial. When engineers probed it with cameras, they discovered it didn't end in bedrock but branched into tunnels too narrow for humans, tunnels that, according to sonar, may connect to Peilinck's underground rivers. Small wonder the Lacantan Maya still leave offerings at the temple's base, whispering prayers to seal the hungry road. Why seal the tomb after its discovery? Officially, Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology cites preservation concerns. The cinnabar's mercury poses health risks, and humidity from breath could damage the murals. But those who have stood guard there tell darker stories. One night watchman in 2012 claimed the red stains on the sarcophagus grew fresher under moonlight, glistening as if newly wet. Another reported hearing a woman's laughter echoing from the burial chamber. A sound recording equipment failed to capture, though seismographs registered faint vibrations at the same moment, pulsing upward from the depths. The greatest clue to the tomb's true nature might lie in a broken censer found near the Queen's head. Carved into its base was a glyph seldom seen outside myth, Siechab Akab, the darkness that eats. To the Maya, it signified more than death. It meant oblivion, the void where even gods fear to tread. Perhaps the Red Queen wasn't just a noble sent to the afterlife. Perhaps she was its guardian, her crimson-smeared bones a ward against whatever waits in those watery tunnels. The mercury would keep her spirit forever restless, forever watching. And if the legends hold, some doors must never swing wide, because not all who enter Xibalba are meant to leave. Today, the tomb remains closed to all but a handful of researchers, its secrets guarded as fiercely as they were in the 7th century. The jungle reclaims the stones, the howler monkeys scream, and deep below, the red stains dry and drip and dry again. Waiting, at the heart of Chichen, its sprawling ruins, where the Kukulkan pyramid casts its serpentine shadow, lies a gaping maw into the underworld, the sacred cenote, a natural sinkhole so steeped in sacrifice that even now divers whisper of its hunger. This isn't just any well, it's a liquid graveyard where the Maya once cast treasures, jade, and human offerings to appease the rain god Chok. But what makes this site truly forbidden isn't the bones lining its depths, it's the way the waters themselves seem to fight back against those who dare to disturb them. Early dredging operations in the 1900s recovered golden artifacts and over 50 skeletons, many belonging to children. Yet modern attempts to explore further have been met with eerie resistance. In 2015, a team of underwater archaeologists reported equipment failures so consistent they defied statistics cameras flooding despite sealed housings, dive computers resetting spontaneously, and sonar images showing distortions that vanished upon closer inspection. The final straw, a diver surfaced screaming, claiming something had gripped his ankle from below, though his colleagues saw nothing in the crystal-clear water. The Mexican government swiftly banned all further exploration, citing cultural sensitivity, but locals nod knowingly. They've long spoken of the cenote's Aluxob mischievous spirits who guard its treasures by dragging intruders into the darkness. The waters themselves defy logic. Measurements show no current strong enough to explain the way objects vanish overnight. In 1970, a team lowered a weighted line to map the cenote's floor. 300 feet down, the rope went slack. When retrieved, the weight was gone, the severed end frayed as if chewed. Even drones flown overhead mysteriously lose altitude, their footage showing the water's surface rippling unnaturally, as if something beneath were testing the boundary between worlds. Perhaps the most chilling evidence lies in the cenote's acoustics. Researchers recording ambient sounds in 2018 captured a Chinese letter hum that matched no known natural phenomenon. Played back at certain frequencies, the vibration caused water in nearby containers to form perfect concentric circles, a phenomenon observed in Maya rituals where priests used sound to open portals to the divine. Was the cenote itself engineered to resonate, or does something beneath its surface still answer those ancient calls? Today, ropes and signs keep visitors at bay, but the real deterrent is the cenote's presence. Stand too close and the air grows thick, humid not with tropical heat, but with a silence so heavy it feels deliberate. The Maya believed their sacrifices sank into Xibalba, the underworld's watery twin. Looking into those emerald depths, it's hard to shake the sense that the gateway still stands open, and something on the other side remembers the taste of reverence. The well's defenders, whether spiritual or supernatural, have made their stance clear. Some debts are not meant to be reclaimed. Rising from the Bohemian forests like a stone sentinel, Hauska Castle guards a secret far older than its medieval walls. Built not to repel invaders but to contain something beneath its foundations, this Czech fortress straddles a gaping pit locals claim was known as the gateway to hell long before the first stones were laid. Legends speak of winged creatures emerging from its depths in the Middle Ages, of prisoners lowered into the void on ropes who screamed of eyes in the dark before their lines went slack. But the most chilling chapter unfolded during World War II, when Nazi occultists commandeered the castle, conducting experiments that left even hardened SS officers whispering of the unforgivable thing in the pit. The Nazis' fascination wasn't random. Medieval records describe the original builders constructing the castle directly over the pit, not around it, as if sealing a wound in the earth. Contemporary accounts mention convicts offered pardons for descending into the hole. None returned, save one who allegedly aged 50 years in minutes, dying babbling about a city upside down. When the Nazis arrived in 1939, they brought seismographs, cameras, and prisoners of their own. Declassified documents describe inexplicable equipment malfunctions, soldiers experiencing shared hallucinations of black veins creeping up the walls, and one account of a test subject surviving 3 days in the pit with no food or water, only to vanish from a locked cell hours after extraction. Modern paranormal investigators have fared no better. Thermal scans reveal cold spots concentrated around the pit that defy environmental explanations, while electromagnetic readings spike erratically near the castle's chapel, a space the Nazis reportedly used for rituals. In 2014, a Czech television crew attempting to film overnight fled before dawn, their audio recording a voice whispering in archaic German, "Schließen Sie die Tür, close the door." Most telling of all, the castle's current owners permit no excavation near the pit, citing structural concerns, though locals insist the iron grate covering it has been replaced 3 times since the 1980s, each new weld mysteriously corroded within months. What makes Hauske's pit different from other so-called helmets? The absence of groundwater. Unlike natural sinkholes or caves, this void is perfectly dry, its depths inhaling air like a breath. Geological surveys confirm it extends at least 200 feet before narrowing abruptly, not into bedrock, but into a horizontal chamber no drill has reached. Some theorists suggest the Nazis believed it led to hollow earth. Others point to the castle's eerie murals, depicting demons not attacking the devout but fleeing from them, as if the chapel above were holding something at bay. One detail chills more than most. The pit's original medieval seal included a layer of horse carcasses mixed with quicklime, a combination used historically not just to mask odors, but to prevent spiritual resurrection. Whether gate, prison, or something beyond human taxonomy, Hauske's secret remains locked in stone and silence. The castle stands empty, its halls echoing with the weight of the unspeakable. And below, the pit waits, silent as the moment before a scream. Hidden beneath the emerald canopy of Guatemala's Patane rainforest, the ruins of Tikal stretch skyward, a testament to the Mayas' architectural genius. But while tourists climb the towering pyramids and marvel at the Great Plaza, few realize that entire sections of this ancient city remain strictly off-limits. Deep within the labyrinth of palaces and plazas, the temple of the Jaguar priest stands sealed, its chambers barred by iron gates and armed patrols. The official reason cites structural instability, but those who have stood near its moss-covered walls after dusk tell a different story. They speak of low, rumbling growls echoing from corridors abandoned for centuries, of shadows that slink along the stones with feline grace, and of a lingering scent, musky, feral, unmistakably alive, that clings to the air long after the last visitor has gone. The temple's history is as enigmatic as its present-day taboos. Carvings depict elite priests adorned in jaguar pelts, their eyes wide with the effects of sacred hallucinogens brewed from morning glory seeds and toxic toad secretions. These shamans, known as Wayab, were said to shapeshift into their spirit counterparts, prowling the jungle as both man and beast, but the rituals weren't merely symbolic. Spanish chronicles describe prisoners forced to ingest yaxha, a virulent green potion, before being led into the temple's depths, their final screams blending with the snarls of captive jaguars kept below. Modern archaeologists have unearthed altars stained with a dark residue that, when analyzed, contained traces of both human blood and jaguar DNA, fused in a way that defies natural explanation. The bans began in earnest after a group of backpackers snuck past barriers in 2005, drawn by rumors of intact murals. Their cameras captured something far more unsettling: claw marks scoring the walls at heights no natural animal could reach, and a series of handprints, some human, some unmistakably paw-like, overlapping in the same ochre pigment. Then came the audio. Recordings from their abandoned gear held a chorus of guttural vocalizations, neither fully human nor entirely animal, synchronizing with distant thunder despite the night being clear. When found, the hikers were catatonic, their pupils dilated as if under the influence of some potent toxin, though toxicology reports came back clean. One kept repeating a phrase in broken Yucatec Maya, Kayuksaj Chan Bolam, "The jaguar eats the sky." Why seal a ruin already conquered by time? Guatemalan authorities insist it's about preserving fragile artifacts, but the guards stationed there wear charms of jade and obsidian, traditional wards against spiritual unrest. Researchers granted rare access describe anomalies that border on the surreal. Thermal scans show heat signatures padding soundlessly through sealed passageways, always just beyond the next turn. Motion sensors trigger in sequences that mimic a stalking predator's approach. Most chilling of all are the recent LiDAR scans, revealing a previously unknown subchamber beneath the temple's foundation. Its layout matches no known Maya design, instead resembling a massive cage, its bars carved from a single slab of volcanic rock, and at its center, a depression in the stone too large to be a throne, too precise to be erosion, a resting place shaped like a jaguar curled in sleep. Perhaps the answer lies not in archaeology, but in the living traditions of the Quechua Maya, who still leave offerings of raw meat at the temple's periphery. They speak of Balamob, the jaguar guardians, who never truly left their posts. Sometimes, they say, the old gods grow hungry, sometimes they wake, and sometimes the door isn't locked to keep us out, but to keep what's inside from slipping through the cracks of the world. At Tikal, the stones remember, the shadows stir, and deep in the jungle's heart, something watches from behind the mask of time. Beneath the charming cafes and pastel facades of Odessa, where tourists sip coffee in the sunlight, lurks a secret so dark even the rats refuse to go near it. A labyrinth of tunnels so vast and twisted they've earned the name the Underground City. Built by 19th-century smugglers to move contraband beneath the streets, these catacombs stretch over 1,500 miles, their limestone walls etched with cryptic symbols and scorch marks. But the deepest sections aren't just abandoned, they're sealed with concrete and barbed wire, guarded by Ukrainian military patrols, and for good reason. This isn't just a smuggler's paradise, it's where Soviet scientists conducted experiments so chilling, even the KGB classified them as unrecoverable. During the Cold War, entire sections of the catacombs were repurposed into clandestine labs, their locations scrubbed from official maps. Declassified documents hint at research on acoustic weapons, psychological torture techniques, and something euphemistically labeled biological adaptability enhancement. Locals tell darker stories of test subjects dragged into the tunnels, never seen again, and of strange, hairless creatures glimpsed in the flicker of flashlight beams, their eyes reflecting like polished glass. In 1972, a team of spelunkers stumbled upon a sealed chamber near Narubetskoy village. Their journals, later confiscated by authorities, described steel tables bolted to the floor, vials of a luminescent liquid, and a single word scratched into the wall: curse. Within weeks, all three were hospitalized with identical symptoms: bleeding gums, blackened fingernails, and a compulsive urge to dig. The dangers aren't just spectral. The catacombs are a geological time bomb, their ceilings collapsing unpredictably as groundwater dissolves the limestone. In 2014, a teenage daredevil live streaming his illegal exploration vanished when his camera feed cut to static mid-scream. Rescue teams found his backpack a mile from his last known location, its contents fused together by a heat source none could identify. Even modern technology falters here. Drones sent to map unstable areas often spiral out of control, their last transmissions filled with a sound engineers compare to radio static layered over screaming. Yet the most unsettling legends predate the Soviets entirely. 19th century police reports mention a serial killer who used the tunnels to dispose of victims, claiming the shadows showed him where to hide them. Survivors of Nazi occupation whispered of SS officers who ventured into the catacombs with flamethrowers, emerging hours later with empty fuel tanks and uniforms stained with a substance that burned blue in the dark. Today, the few permitted researchers wear dosimeters and carry silvered mirrors. Old Ukrainian folklore claims reflective surfaces reveal what the tunnels try to hide. Why such extreme measures for a few crumbling passages? A 2021 geological survey revealed the answer: the deepest tunnels aren't collapsing randomly. Their collapses form patterns, concentric circles radiating from central chambers like impact craters, as if something beneath Odessa is testing its bonds, one tremor at a time. And if the local babushkas are to be believed, their grandmothers warned them never to whistle down cellar stairs. You might wake the things that stopped pretending to sleep. In the arid plains of southeastern Turkey, where the wind carries whispers of 12,000 years, Göbekli Tepe rises from the earth like a riddle carved in stone. This prehistoric temple complex predates Stonehenge by 6 millennia, built by hunter-gatherers who shouldn't have possessed the tools or organization to erect such marvels. Its massive T-shaped pillars, adorned with intricate carvings of foxes, scorpions, and vultures, stand in silent circles, each weighing up to 20 tons, dragged from quarries miles away with no wheels, no beasts of burden, only human hands. But the greatest mystery isn't how they built it, it's why they buried it. Around 8,000 years before the Common Era, someone meticulously entombed Göbekli Tepe under thousands of tons of soil, filling the temple's courtyards and passages until only the hill remained. This wasn't erosion or neglect, it was deliberate, almost reverent. Archaeologists have found no signs of invasion, no natural disaster, just layer upon layer of carefully placed rubble. The pillars were cushioned with gravel to prevent damage, as if their creators intended to preserve them for whom or what. Some scholars believe the site was decommissioned after fulfilling a sacred purpose, its power too potent to leave exposed. Others point to carvings depicting a cataclysmic event, a comet strike recorded in ancient star maps, suggesting the burial was an act of atonement, or a warning sealed for future generations. Modern excavations have only scratched the surface, quite literally. UNESCO has declared much of Göbekli Tepe off limits to further digging, citing preservation concerns. But those who have worked there speak of quieter reasons. Ground-penetrating radar reveals at least 20 more megalithic circles still buried, their layouts forming a sprawling, interconnected pattern resembling a sacred diagram. Even more unsettling are the acoustic studies. When struck, the pillars produce resonant frequencies that mimic the human brain's theta waves, the state associated with deep meditation and visions. Was this place designed to alter consciousness? Local shepherds have long avoided the hill, calling it Sinlarin Tepesi, Hill of the Jinn. Their flocks refuse to graze near its slopes, and dogs whine at its perimeter after dark. In 2015, a team ignoring these warnings to conduct night surveys claimed their equipment malfunctioned, capturing thermal images of humanoid shapes standing motionless among the pillars, shapes that vanished when approached. The Turkish government now stations guards near the site's sealed sections, though they deny any paranormal rationale. Perhaps the ancients knew something we've forgotten. The oldest known temple wasn't built for worship as we understand it. There are no altars, no signs of habitation, just these towering stones whispering of a time when humanity's first sacred act wasn't to create but to conceal. Göbekli Tepe's deepest secret may lie not in what's been unearthed, but in what remains hidden. And after 12,000 years, its guardians, whether human or something else, seem determined to keep it that way. Among the golden dunes of Dosha, where Egypt's pyramids stretch toward the heavens, one structure stands apart, not for its grandeur, but for the whispers of dread that cling to its cracked facade. The Black Pyramid, built by Pharaoh Amenemhat III, tilts ominously against the desert sky, its dark, crumbling limestone a stark contrast to the gleaming perfection of Giza. But it's not just its unstable foundation that terrifies locals. This pyramid was sealed off in the 1990s after a series of violent collapses, not due to mere erosion, but because of what workers claimed they heard echoing from its newly exposed chambers. Screams that rose with the desert winds, as if the stones themselves were howling in agony. The pyramid's curse isn't a modern invention. Ancient texts reference its construction as a plea to gods who refused to listen. Its corridors designed not to guide a pharaoh's soul to the afterlife, but to imprison something far older. When archaeologists first breached the burial chamber in the 1950s, they found no sarcophagus, just a network of tunnels leading downward, their walls scored with grooves too deep and precise for bronze tools. Further excavations revealed something worse: the bones of laborers entombed alive inside passages, their skeletons twisted in poses of violent struggle, their skulls crushed as if by immense pressure. The official explanation cited a rushed construction and structural failure, but the Bedouin guides refused to approach the site after sundown, muttering about jinn that pulled men into the walls. Then came the sandstorms of 1996. A team of engineers assessing the pyramid's stability fled when a gust of wind roared through its passages, producing a sound unlike any natural phenomenon, a chorus of wails so human it sent camels stampeding in panic. Recording equipment left behind captured the audio, a Chinese letter that seismologists later identified as vibrations resonating through the pyramid's unique lattice of cracks and chambers. But the analysis raised more questions. The frequencies matched no known wind patterns, and the voices seemed to articulate distinct phonetic sounds, a discovery so unsettling that Egypt's Antiquities Ministry ordered the pyramid permanently closed. Today, chain-link fences and armed guards keep outsiders at bay, though satellite imagery reveals fresh cave-ins near the pyramid's base, as if something beneath is still shifting. Geologists monitoring the site report anomalous tremors that defy tectonic explanations, their epicenters clustered directly beneath the pyramid's core. And on nights when the Khamsin winds roar, nearby villagers still lock their doors, claiming the desert carries more than sand. It carries echoes of a king's folly and a warning sealed in stone. Some tombs were never meant to be opened because some things refuse to stay dead. The Black Pyramid doesn't rest, it waits, and when the sands scream, even the bravest hold their breath. From the mercury-laced tomb of China's first emperor to the whispering walls of Paris' forbidden catacombs, these 25 ancient sites share unnerving threads that defy coincidence. Curses etched in stone aren't just superstition, they're echoed in the fates of those who dared to disturb them. Governments don't merely guard these places, they seal them with an urgency that feels less about preservation and more about prevention. And the disappearances. Too many explorers, scholars, and even soldiers have vanished under circumstances that leave no rational explanation, only whispers of shadows that move against the wind, of voices speaking dead languages, and of doors that close a little faster when you aren't looking. What ties these sites together isn't just their age or their mysteries, it's the chilling sense that they were never meant to be found. Whether by design or some older, stranger logic, they resist being uncovered. The Black Pyramid's howling sands, Poveglia's phantom tolling bell, the Labyrinth of Hawara's shifting corridors all seem to share a singular purpose: to turn curiosity into caution and exploration into retreat. Even modern science, with its ground-penetrating radar and thermal imaging, hits walls it can't breach. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that some answers are guarded by forces beyond our understanding. So which of these forbidden zones lingers in your thoughts? Is it the Vatican's bone-filled catacombs where the dead might still be whispering, or the submerged horrors of Nan Madol where the ocean itself seems to reject intruders? Let us know in the comments, because this is just the beginning. Beyond these ancient sites lie modern mysteries just as unsettling: military exclusion zones, uncharted islands where compasses spin wildly, and research facilities so secret their very existence is debated. The past's enigmas have cousins in the present, and they're waiting for their turn in the spotlight. As we close this journey, remember the words of explorer Percy Fawcett before he vanished into the Amazon, never to return. The world is not as simple as we pretend. There are corners where the light doesn't reach, and things stir in those corners that have no name. These 25 sites are more than ruins or relics. They're mirrors held up to the edges of our understanding, reflecting back the truths we aren't ready to face. And perhaps that's the most forbidden knowledge of all, that some doors should stay closed, not because of what they keep out, but because of what they keep